Oh yeah, today, folks, we are in day, I'm not even sure what day it is of quarantine, maybe like 30, 35, 40. It depends upon where you are in the world. We are here though today. We got our wonderful guests, and I would like to welcome Eric Weathers, the letters, the man, everything that is, to the Skits Funhouse. Yeah!
Whoa.
That's what I'm talking about.
How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate it.
It's good to be here.
Now, I told you we'd get a little bit of loud there. We'd get excited and we'd get into it, you know. But I had to bring out my military voice, you know.
Okay.
You know, as you know, you were in the military. You know, when you're in training, they really train your voice. You know,
that's you kind of gotta dig deep for it.
You know, and I knew that because this was your last book that you did, Flying Fortress, that, hey, this guy knows about the military. We're going to get into it. We're just going to yell and scream and flex those vocal muscles that I haven't flexed for about 20 years.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I think I might keep mine sheathed.
Exactly. I understand, you know, but it's the fun house. It skits. It's crazy. We got to keep our arms moving. We just got to get something going on. So,
I love it.
You were just on Ethan's stream, and they were talking about how beautiful you are, how wonderfully sexy you are, and that is something that I just wanted to comment upon because your hair is sexy. You know, the cap on the hair is sexy. You got facial hair, which is sexy. I can't grow facial hair.
I'm sorry.
I know. It's just one of those things. It must be like a recessive gene because, like, 6 generations ago, my grandma was like full Cherokee, and you know they didn't grow a lot of facial hair, so it probably is recessive because my dad gets full beards and
right.
And my mom, she gets a full beard too.
Full beard, so. Yeah. My mom's got the mustache thing going on these days, so I understand.
So let's just go over to the chat. Let's see what we got going on. I see people who are in the chat and saying hello, but they're not showing up on the counter thing here. So we'll just go ahead and go. Black Star, she's in there. She's back the battle. She's putting your project in there. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and bring that bad boy up. Let's switch over to it. That's mine. We'll talk about that a little bit, but you are the man of honor right now, and there you go. Battle Brick Road. It is over 20 grand in just a couple of days. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, how good does that make you feel? I mean, you've been in this game. You've been creating comics for a while. You've been touring the circuit, going to shows, you know, trying to get your stuff out there. How does it feel to be getting this much love in just a few days after so long of a time building yourself up?
Well, I mean, it feels good. You know, we've been working on this book for a while, and as you said, I've been doing other shows to promote the other book you just showed, Flying Fortress. This one is blowing that one out of the water, which always feels good. You always want your second book to do better and the next book to do better and better, and that's just fantastic. It's a new story. It's got new art from me. Everything in Flying Fortress was anywhere between 10 and 4 years old, or 10 and 3 years old. So it's nice to get out there and show people what I'm capable of, show people what I can do other than just lettering, because that's sort of what I've been known for the past couple of years. And you know, it's just fun. I mean, people are excited about the book when they back the book. You're in a pitch and seeing a few pages, and they got confidence in it. That just makes you feel all warm and tingly inside.
Exactly. I mean, I can imagine, because I'm starting to get close to my launch. You know, I'm starting to get that feeling in the chest where it's like, this is going to happen soon. You don't really know what's actually going to happen, and it's bubbling.
Yeah.
And then that day one when it drops, you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And then, I mean, within a few hours, you were just off to the races. It
Yeah,
was
and
great.
that anticipation can be crippling, honestly, because it's like you're doing everything and you're nervous, and even though I had done it before, it was the same feeling of like, is everything right? Are the people going to like this idea? Yeah, it's do I have enough tears? Do I have too many tears? Is there enough artwork? There's just so many things you second guess yourself about. And I had some good advice from different people. Clint Stoker from Sweetcast, Von Klaus from Monster MD, some good buddies of mine that I was sharing the link with, saying, "Hey, how's this look?" And Vaughn is always like, "Show more, more, more." So we did, and it's thanks to him that there are some extra sketches and stuff that I wasn't going to put up that are in there now. So the
Yeah,
Scarecrow said is what sells. He said he's like, your take on the characters is what's selling the story. It's not just the story itself. So show off your characters. Like, all right,
well,
you
see,
got me. Okay, I will.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like I saw it when it first came up. I was like, man, this is great. And then I think you were on Clint's stream with Vaughn, and I think that's when he was telling you this. He's like, hey, man, and
Yeah,
I think he started popping up some of them sketches, because you were showing them on the stream. They're like, why ain't they on this, the campaign? It's like these
yeah,
things are awesome. So yeah, I mean, I really like them, and the fact that you're going from pencils to color without any inking, I'm a huge fan of that because what I'm doing with my book. I
nice.
actually have 3 different styles of art that's going to be in the book. I got the pencils and colors, and then I also have pencils with concept art style of painting over
Hmm.
the top of it, and then I also got ink brushing, and painting. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of like a take of going back to like a Dave McKean book or something like that. Like his
Yeah,
cages or pictures that click or something like that, where he had the different styles and running into it.
yeah, I like
So
that. There's a book I worked on a year or so ago. I didn't do much for it. Honestly, don't think he used my lettering in the end because it was like, I need you just in case. So here's some pages. But Mike Ingerhauser did his Black Forest book, and it was all the art is on every page was a different style. It felt like that's
really.
going to be tough. I'll be honest, it might be tough to work with to letter on. So we'll have to wait and see, right?
Well, that's something that we're going to actually talk about right after
Yeah.
this show because
Okay.
you're going to have a few different variations and I'll send you some artwork to kind of look at it. But the pages that I'm going to have you do are actually just the pencils and colors.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's definitely something that we got to look into, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I know
Yeah.
you're the man for the job because, heck, man, you do it daily, and
Sure.
that's why I wanted to get someone like you working on skits because you do this stuff daily, and that's
Yeah.
really important for consistency.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm working today. Actually, I'm lettering Nora's Saga 2 from the Allegiance lineup. That and hello, we'll talk about your book, and I got another Guardians of Erloth 2. I'm working on that as well today. So
All
busy,
right.
busy, always busy.
So everyone out there, get on it. Get on the Battle Brick Road. I mean, it looks fantastic. I mean, comparative to the Flying Fortress, I'll hold that up nice and close. Flying Fortress to what you're seeing right here, it is a major leap forward, and that is something that I really wanted to talk to you about today.
Yeah.
This major leap. Okay, so first question I like to ask people is, what came first for you? Was it comics or was it artwork? What was the thing as a child that you got into first, comics or art?
Well, if those are the only two choices, I guess I would say art.
Okay.
I drew. I always drew. Um, my mom tells the story about how I would draw all the time with crayons, and even when I was done, this is how she's like, I knew you were always going to be an artist because when I was done coloring with crayons, even at like 2, I would put all the crayons back in the box in order instead of just breaking them and chewing on them like my kids do. And I'm like, Mom, that just means I was organized. It doesn't mean I was going to be destined to be this artist. But I always drew, and then as you get older, I just copied and just drew what I
Yeah.
was interested in. I'd copy like Ninja Turtles and I drew a lot of Ninja Turtles as a kid because that was my jam.
That's what got
And
me into comics was
yeah,
the Ninja Turtles. I mean, it's like it was one of the first comics that I got in '85 or something like that. I got issue
mhm,
number 2 or 3. I can't quite remember which one, but it was at one of the local shops. It was a record store that was across the street from my grandma's house down in Florida, and they also sold comic books.
yeah.
So I saw it, and for some reason, it resonated with me. I was like, "Man, that's cool," you know. So I got one of those, and that's really what sent me on my way. Now, you said your kids like to eat and break the crayons. Now, comparative to you when you were a kid, did you have more stuff than they do, or did you have less stuff than they do? You know, because I know,
Overall,
yeah,
just
because I
stuff.
notice kids today have a lot more toys and a lot more. Like myself, I can name on like two hands how many toys I had as a kid. So
I would say it's comparable. They have a lot more toys coming in from the periphery, aunts and uncles and all of this stuff. So, but in terms of like what we get them, uh, I'd say it's pretty comparable to what I had growing up, maybe even less.
really,
Well, not less in the sense I guess it's different, because my boys love Lego sets. So you buy one Lego set, but then it just eventually becomes just the pile of Legos.
yeah,
So that continues to grow. They're not really into the action figures and stuff. My youngest likes dinosaurs, so there's a lot of dinosaur toys. But we'll go through, once a year and do a culling and make sure that it doesn't we're not surrounded by Chinese plastics.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's more of a, you know, me and my wife were Christian. I don't
Hmm.
really talk much about that, but we have a lot of friends and families who also like that, and it seems like a lot of them more so today are actually starting to do that sort of thing where they call things back. You know, they give
Yep.
away to people. You know, they donate their toys year after year to needy kids and different stuff like that. So I think that's something that's done more today than it was when I was a kid because I got to be honest with you, I didn't have anything. Like I had a glove, a bike,
Yeah.
baseball. I had a couple of Transformers, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
You
It's
know.
just X-Men toys and Ninja Turtles and that, that was about it for me too. But yeah, we donate. When you get the baby toys, we started going to a brand new church. It was still not we're not technically a church plant anymore. We've grown past that, but it was hey the baby toys and the mats and stuff. We've outgrown that. We give that to the church. We've done stuff like that too. So there's a lot of donation going around.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a good thing. It's good. I think like this is something that I did when I got older. Like I noticed when I got older, I was starting. I worked a lot, and I bought my own stuff, and I realized I liked it how it was when I was a kid, when I only had like a handful of things to take care of. So
Hmm.
I was constantly giving stuff away. Like I gave away like comic books when I got into like college and stuff like that. I gave away pretty much everything I owned at one point,
Yep.
except for some music and art supplies. You know, and I pretty much lived like that until I was in my late 30s, and then I started. I was like, well, I probably should buy a home and get a wife and all that
Grow
sort
up
of
a little bit.
yeah, exactly. It's like when once you get into your 30s and stuff, it's hard to find girlfriends that want to be around a guy that doesn't have anything. You got a car and
Right.
a bed, and that's about a mattress on the floor. And
Yeah.
like, what the heck
It's
are we
it's
doing?
got a good signal.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
hey, I'm
exactly.
marriage material. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
come on over and sleep on my floor with me. I got I got nothing going on. So did you have good art studies when you were in school growing up, like elementary, junior high, high school? Because for me, it was like arts and crafts in elementary school, and sixth grade is really when I got introduced to stuff. I just did sports, football, baseball,
Yeah.
basketball. And then sixth grade came along, and for some reason, I had an art teacher that said, "Hey, you need to draw this." And I was like, okay. And I was good at it, but I wasn't doing it was a still life. I was like, I don't want to do still
Yeah.
life. She was like, "Well, what do you like?" I was like, "Well, I like these Ninja Turtles, And she was like, "Okay, yeah, draw that then." So, and then from there, I had really good teaching in junior high, like classical upbringing, gesture drawing, blind contour. I mean, like the whole
Yeah.
9 yards.
All the classics.
Exactly. And then I had even more and better of it when I got to high school. So, how did you have good training when you were in school?
In high school, I did. Yeah, there were no art classes in middle school where I grew up. I remember though that in fourth grade, the teacher that would become my art teacher from high school came to the fourth grade class and did a little project with us, and we made these houses out of a single sheet of paper. You make a cut on either side, about 2 inches from the bottom. You fold that up, and then you fold the sides back, and it just sort of sits up on its own. And you'd make a building, and that became something that I did on my own at home. I'd make like a whole row of houses and different buildings and stuff. But between all of that time up until high school, all my drawing was just me at home, just sort of goofing around, drawing in my sketchbook or whatever. And it wasn't until high school that I started taking art classes. And like you said, it was the traditional stuff. It's the gesture drawing and the do it upside down, do it with your left hand, see,
Yep.
blindfold and all of that, painting and all the stuff, the clay and the sculpting and everything. And then I did go to college for a couple of years. And I studied graphic design there, but I was in the art department doing drawing and art history, and most of it at that point though I'd switched over to graphic design. So all while
Interesting.
wanting to be a comic book artist, but never really buckling down.
Well, see, that was the
No.
thing for me. Like, I was going through high school and I was learning like classical stuff, painting, like Renaissance style, all that sort of stuff. And then when I got to college, what I was always wanting to do when I was at home was comic book type stuff. I was always
Yeah.
drawing figures, going over the motions in my head. And from my background, I was like, okay, I saw the Renaissance guys, right? I didn't know any comic book artists. I mean, I was in Florida. I didn't know where any of these people were. There was no internet. You couldn't just
Yeah.
call them. So my idea was, okay, so this is how the Renaissance people got really good. They didn't have photography. They didn't have any of that stuff. So they learned to draw from their head. That was
Yeah.
my idea. I thought, okay, they draw from their head. They do that. So I learned through repetition and memory exactly how to draw figures and whatever I wanted to learn to draw. Now, then when I went to college, I found out that everyone actually just learned to draw from pictures and photo reference and all that sort of
Right.
stuff. And it blew my mind. I was like, holy cow, you mean I don't have to memorize every little thing in
Yeah.
order to draw it?
That's funny. That's
Yeah, well,
funny.
I
Yeah.
didn't have,
You
didn't
learned
have
how to draw from
computers
your
and none
head.
of that.
You learn how to
Yeah,
draw from your head, and the Renaissance painters were learning to draw from the dead.
exactly.
That's where they learned to draw, yeah, just
Exactly.
cadavers. Yeah,
Exactly. They had live models too,
that's
so
true. Yeah,
so for you, did you learn from reference material, like looking at comic books and stuff like that, or was
yeah.
it all from your head?
It was absolutely, reference is king for me. I don't know if I have the capacity to remember what things look like. So it's always like, "Let me see, I need a photo of that, let me get a photo. What's a cheetah look like? Oh, this is what a cheetah looks like, let me copy that." It's funny, it reminds me of that time when you were a kid and you were drawing. Maybe this is why you were like, you have to do it all in your head. Is there was this sort of competition of, did you copy that?
Yep.
Or did you draw it on your own? There was that sort of like, or did you trace it? Oh, you traced that, or you copied that.
Yep.
Like, you go to a professional working artist and they're like, oh, you copied it. Well, of course I copied it. Nobody knows how to draw a steam engine from memory unless you're Kim Jong-gi. So yeah, of course
Yeah.
I copied. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. I remember people would say that. They'd be like, "Did you trace that?" And I'm like, "It's not tracing paper."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
and then I found out about light boxes years later. I was like, "A light box? What is this?" I had no idea this thing
It opens up
existed.
a whole new world when you get the light box.
I know. I got to college and I saw all these light boxes. I was like, "What's that?" They're like, "Oh, you can trace your draw. You do it rough and then you trace it out." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, I can trace stuff." I was like, on regular paper. I was like, "I
Yeah.
don't want to draw everything on tracing paper."
It's fantastic.
But
I use a light box for most of my work these days because I do my layouts digitally. So I'll light box those on a traditional pencil.
see, I am the exact same way. I do all my layouts digitally, but what I'll do is I project everything out. I got a
Mm,
projector right back there, and I
yeah.
project it on the wall, and I just trace it right on the paper and stuff like that. And then I go from there because I just feel like layouts, man, they're so rough and fluid, and you want to cut and paste and move stuff
Yep.
around. So it's really, to me, I mean, and it seems like for you, it's like working digitally with your roughs or your thumbnails. I mean, it is key. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. It just makes
No,
no sense.
yeah, I have in the past, and there's just so much that changes for me when I go from layouts to final pencils. Like I'll like make changes sort of on the fly. Like I wasn't, maybe I could amp this up a little better. So now when I'm doing the traditional layouts, like I actually bring them pretty close to, I make it pretty tight. So so that when I go to final pencils, they're just, all of that guesswork is done, and then it's just drawing. So there's no more problem solving. All of that's taken care of.
Hmm.
And in the end, I have a traditional page that I can hang on the wall or sell or whatever. So, and that's always good to go.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's something that I don't really like about a lot of comic book art is it's got the blue lines on there. It's got all this stuff. I mean, it's specifically made for making the comic book and not really for selling. You know, and
Right.
I don't like I did this piece the other day, and it's just ink on 100% rag cotton paper. You know,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
it's like this is the type of artwork I want to sell to people. You know, it's like
Right.
in my campaign, I'm going to have a ton of artwork for sale. So it's like, if you want artwork, this is the place, because it's like on nice paper. It's, acid free cotton rag paper. You know, it's exactly what it's archival. It'll last forever. And it's like, that's what I expect from artists, like when I buy their artwork, it's like, that's what I
Yeah.
want.
Yep. Exactly. You want a nice pristine thing you can hang on your wall and you're proud of.
Exactly, and I don't
Yeah.
want blue lines all over the place. It's like I have some pencil work in this, like I got a little bit of pencil work, but I go
Yeah.
over it with ink, and it's ink brush, and I'm just like, bam, and then I paint over it to get rid of my mistakes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it looks like a piece of art when it's done, and that's the way I like my comic book art to be. It's like I
Yeah.
want it to look like an original piece of art, something that you could hang in a gallery, even.
Yeah. Well,
So
what you got there looked great. So
okay.
you're well on your way.
Well, we got a question here. Let's see
Sure.
what we got. Ask Eric if he will transition from military style indie comics to kids comics since he has little ones. Hmm.
Hmm. Well, no transition is necessary. I don't think there's nothing in there that says I can't do both. I have a small uh, comic strip style thing that I did years and years ago, back in 2013 for 24-hour comic day. Printed up and everything. Actually, had a Kickstarter back then for it. I mean, it sold maybe like 20 copies, but it's a little anthropomorphic thumb. His name's Thumbstone. And he's got a little wart sidekick called Mort, and it's the adventures of Thumbson and Mort. And it's that, it's like Calvin and Hobbes, that kind of thing. My wife's like, you need to do that. You need to do more of that, a lot more of that. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Every time she says something like that, she's right. She's like, you need to paint more because you're good at painting. I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I hear other people saying, wow, you're really good at painting. You should probably do that more. So lesson learned. Listen to your wife is, I guess, the moral of the story here. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to do both. But I don't see Battle Brick Road really having much. It's not like it's a gore fest. It's not meant to be a bloody tale. But
Mm.
it's just a lot of fun action, sort of like an
Yeah,
Indiana Jones romp.
it's got a big gorilla. I mean, how much
Yeah.
cooler can you
Who
get than
doesn't
that?
want that?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
everyone likes big gorillas. I
That's
mean,
right.
come on, like Grape Ape back in the day. Grape Ape was the
That's
man.
right.
So we got a thing on here. Eric is working on Skits comic. Yeah, actually, that's something we just kind of walked right over. We didn't even
That's
say
true.
anything about. It's like boom, like yes, Eric is going to be doing the lettering for Skits comic. That it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal because usually
It
I
is a
just
big
do
deal.
everything on my books. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to pay anybody anything. I just want to do it all myself. I'm a
That's how
cheap. I'm
that's
cheap.
how I made Flying Fortress. Was I don't want to pay anybody, so I'll just do it all myself. So I
Yeah,
can completely relate.
but no, it's important that certain things, in my opinion, are done in the book by people who have a regular history of doing it, because it brings the whole project together.
Yeah.
uh, whatever that is for you, find someone that can do that. For me, it's an editor, because my mind is all over the place and I don't even know what the heck's going on in it usually. So I need
Yeah.
someone to edit it. So they're like,
Yeah.
why do you have it going from here to there and jumping all around? And you need to concise it and break it down right here. And then for me also, it was the lettering. It's like, yeah, that's something I can get into. I could do it, but I don't want to spend the time when there's other people out there who can bang it out quickly because they do it every day and it looks consistent throughout the
Yeah.
entire book.
Yeah.
Me, I'd get 5 pages into it and then I'd be like doing a different style because I'm like, oh, this is looking cooler now. And then I got to go back and change all of that because I'm
Yep.
learning it on the fly,
Yeah. It's dangerous to do it that way. That was a lot of Flying Fortress was that way. You sort of, and when you do that, you're always wanting to go back and change it. You're always wanting to fix it, and you can't. You just got to keep moving forward, because
Yeah.
if you're going back and fixing it, then you George Lucas in the whole thing, and you'll never finish. So uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
moving forward, obviously, Battle Brick Road is taking that forward. There's not a lot of going back and changing. There shouldn't be any of that. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah. Here's one. This is kind of goes back to my way of doing work. I mean, I've done fine art for years. I've shown in galleries. That's kind of what I went to school for, was illustration and fine art. And for me, when I was doing my art, a lot of people needed to be very meticulous, and everything had to be exactly perfect. For me, it was more about putting down a mark and living with it. It was like
Okay.
putting down. It's like pencils are going to look like pencils. Paint's going to look like paint. A brush stroke is going to look like a brush stroke. Ink is going to look like ink. It's just like you put it down and you leave it and you move on. It's like you're telling a story, not only of the story, but your personal development as an artist. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
It's you like living dangerously. It sounds like.
I know.
There's a lot-
I was talking to Art last week about this with his inks. I was like, "Yeah, how do you do your inks?" Because me, it's like I want to be in the moment. I got the brush there, and I'm just laying it down. I'm really harsh with my arm movements and stuff, and I'm just like putting it down there as hard as I can and putting emotion in the stroke work or delicateness. And he was like, "Well, I like to everything." And he was
Yeah.
like, he's like, with the stuff that he does, he's like, I don't want it to be about the emotion of the brushwork. I want it to be about the quality of the line from the original drawing, because
Right.
he's an anchor. So, I mean,
Right.
that makes sense. But
He's a dirty tracer.
yeah, he's
Yeah, I'm
not a
calling you out,
tracer.
Art. Nobody else will do it.
Oh, so yeah, we were talking about that, and I was like, yeah, man, I just want to take the brush or the whatever it is and just put it down and leave it. If I
Yeah.
find a mistake that I can't live with, well, then I just go back over it and paint it out with white. It's
Sure.
like, and it becomes a part of the process, kind of like a Jason Sean Alexander or Dave McKean or any of
Yeah.
those big guys who do that sort of stuff. That painted quality. So that's
Yeah.
really something that I wanted to kind of bring forth with mine. So you
That's good.
mentioned going to college and you studied graphic design.
Yes.
So is that
Briefly.
how you made a living, or was it that you quit and you didn't want to do it and you went into the army, or what's the deal
Well,
there?
it's a bit of a. I'll see if I can give you the 30,000 foot view. I went in. I always wanted to be a comic book artist, and it was sort of like a maybe that'll happen someday. Well, I didn't know how to really pursue it. I didn't really know how to make it happen. Or at least none of it was clicking in terms of the things you hear, like, make your own comic book or go to the conventions. I didn't even know what that really meant. How do I go to a convention? Grew up in Kansas. There weren't a lot of conventions around me in Kansas, not back in the 90s at least. And so I went to college just on an art scholarship, and I thought that they all had in the graphic design department had all these brand new Mac Pros, and I thought, man, this looks kind of fun. And there was a refrigerator in the corner, and I like could bring snacks. This all sounds pretty cool. So that's what enticed me was the technology, and just the thought about you make all the graphics for everything. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I studied graphic design for a couple of years. Um, I dropped out of college and joined the army. That's how that worked. Just I I guess I didn't look hard enough, but I looking back now, I was a dumb 20-year-old, or heck, I was a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, thinking, I couldn't find a job. Well, I'll just join the army. Of course, this is back in 2003. Not the best time if you don't want to, go put boots on the ground. But yeah, I joined the army and did that for a couple of years, and then came back to try and redo graphic design, and then thought, nah, it's just not in me. And that's where it switched from graphic design, which I did. I did some freelance work for a while, did some work for hire for different, not contract work for different companies. I worked for Coleman, the Coleman Lantern Company. I worked for them for a little while.
Really? Oh,
I did a just like more into none of the design on the boxes or anything, but more internal stuff and some of their ad campaign stuff. But it did that for just probably a year as a contractor, and then did some stuff for a local magazine. And then after that, it was like graphic design ended, and then Flying Fortress work sort of started right then when I got out of graphic design, just started doing, blue collar work. I worked at a pyrometry, which is it is a form of science that measures the heat inside ovens to make sure that the temperature on the reader on the outside is actually the temperature inside the oven, and makes sure that the temperatures don't spike too high or come down to, everything, make sure the oven's working properly. We did that with big industrial ovens. They cook and cure a bunch of parts for airline manufacturing. So I did that, worked in autoclaves and all sorts of fun stuff. But while I was doing that, I'm drawing Flying Fortress. And then that's sort of what happened. And then we got out of that, and I started making some money doing freelance, started working from home. And as a comic book, as I was working on Flying Fortress, I would do a job here or there, whether it be a logo for somebody or a small page run on a different comic or whatever it was. I'd bring in a little side money doing that while watching the boy. At the time, it was just the one. So yeah, it was quite a journey. But
well, I
now
mean,
I'm doing it full time. So
I mean, you landed exactly where you wanted to be. I mean,
yeah,
everyone has their journey to actually make it to the particular place. Not all rivers run straight. Some of them have winds and curves, but eventually you get there.
That's true.
It's a wonderful thing. Your story of going into the army, you're saying it was 2003. Not really the best time and everything.
No.
So I got kind of a similar one. It's 2001. I'd been graduated from college for about a year or so, and this army recruiter, just ran into me at the bookstore. He was like, "Hey, you want to be in the army?" And I'm like, "No." He was like, "Listen, you could be in the army. What do you have a college?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a college degree." I'm like 24, 25 at the time, and he's like, "Well, listen, you could be in here. You could make a ton of money and da 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 da." And I was like, and he's like, "You could do whatever you want." He's like, "Listen, you don't have to join the army. Just go to MEPS, take the class, take the test, see what you could do." So I went into MEPS. I took the class, the test, and then you score really good because obviously you already went through college, so
Right.
a lot of that stuff's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So he was like, "All right, you can do anything. What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it, whatever." So I went in, and you know how they have week 0 in basic, right? You have that first week where you're getting your shots, you're getting your head shaved and all that.
Yep.
Well, my very first day, as soon as so it was like an afternoon, they take you over to real basic training where they're yelling at you, slinging your stuff everywhere. The guy behind you is peeing his pants because he's never left home before. And then the next morning, they sit us down. They go, "The Twin Towers have been attacked and they just got knocked down. You're going to war."
Holy cow.
That was day 1 basic for me. They set us down and said, "Yeah, that was 9/11 day 1." So
Wow.
I know. I thought it was a joke, because when you get there,
Yeah, because
you don't
they do that.
yeah, you don't know what's going on. They tell you
You
all
have no
sorts of
access to the
stories.
news or anything. You get
Nothing.
yeah.
Yeah. you're locked away in a bunk with a bunch of other guys, and I'm just sitting here like, come on, man, this is bull crap. This didn't
Yep.
exist. But yeah, day one for me, right after week 0, as soon as they sat us down that next morning, it was 9/11. They're like, we've been attacked. The first tower is falling down. The second one's on fire. Boom, the second one went down. The Pentagon's attacked. I'm like, come on. I mean, what's the chances?
Wow.
Yeah, so that
That
was,
is insane. I
yeah,
couldn't
it's day one.
imagine. I couldn't imagine
Day one.
hearing that. Hearing that, because
You
I obviously I went in knowing that had already happened too.
Yep,
So
yep.
wow.
And the thing is I was in there with a bunch of kids. They were just like, I came in here for the money and to go to school. I mean, some of them are crying, some of them were scared. A lot of these kids are like 16, 17. They ain't never been away from home before.
Yeah.
I hadn't lived at home for like 6 years, and I was, doing my thing. So I mean, it was no
Right.
big deal for me. But I felt bad for some of these kids. And yes, some of the kids, we had people that peed their pants. I was just like, oh my gosh, guys.
Yep.
I mean, it's a rough thing, and I got a big heart for them, but at the same time, it's just like you gotta grab something,
Yep.
and,
Absolutely.
and be a man, But I will tell you, they were hard on us. They were hard on us like you wouldn't believe, and we came out with tremendous scores because of how hard they were on us. They were like, "You're
Yeah.
going to
It helped.
war," you know.
Forged in fire.
Exactly. I mean, what
Yep.
else can you do?
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit more about art, but at the same time, we got Come Get Some. Can you hear us? Come Get Some. How are you?
Hey, boys. I heard you
Hey.
peed your pants.
No.
No, no,
Not me.
no.
Not me.
So what would you like to ask? Old Black Star, how are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you.
I don't think she can quite hear us or something. Can you hear us, Karshin?
Yeah. Can
Black
you hear
Star?
it?
Because you don't sound like you can hear us.
I can hear you. I'm just laughing that you peed your pants.
I didn't
Oh,
pee my pants.
you
What are
did
you
it.
talking about? No.
Others.
It was the kid. Actually, it was the kid standing in front of me in formation. He peed himself while all the drill sergeants were yelling at him. And this nice lady drill sergeant had to come up to him and whisper in his ear, "Hey, it's all a game. Everything will
Yep.
be okay."
It's funny you say the game thing. I remember I had a drill sergeant. It was towards the end of the. I never got out of line. Like from day one, I understood the game. Like I got it.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
just follow. It's just you do you just play the game. And he's like, well, he knows what's going on. He understands it's a game, and he's been playing the game the whole time. Other you guys don't understand the game. You guys aren't learning the rules of the game. It's funny. It's really
Well,
funny
My
that you brought
mom
that up.
is retired Air Force, so I know all about boys peeing their pants. So likely story.
so when I was in AIT, I had a drill sergeant come up to me and he was like, "Siegenthaler, I know you went to college. What do you think all that schooling did for you that will work for you here in the Army? Has it taught you anything that you can use here?" And I sat there for a second. I said, "I know how to keep my mouth shut." He said, "You'll go far, young man."
It's really all it takes. Keep your
Hey,
mouth shut and do what you're
Eric,
told.
what's going? Hey, Eric, thank you so much. Just want to come on and say thank you for being our letterer for
Yes.
Skits
Hey.
comic.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the team. It looks like a fun book, and I'm excited to get working on it for sure. Yeah.
We are so excited to have you. And it was funny because when we started looking for letterers, even last year, your name was just like synonymous. It was just like Eric, Eric, Eric. And I was like, but is it the same Eric Weathers? They're like, it's Eric, Eric, Eric. And I was like, but is it the same guy? And they were like, it's Eric, it's Eric.
It's
So
me. It's just me. It's me and Uncle Carl, and we're good to go.
Who's Uncle Carl? I've
Carl
heard
Weathers.
you. I've heard.
I call him Uncle Carl.
Oh,
No, we're not related, not at all. But
dude, Carl Weathers, man, he's the man. I love
yeah,
that guy. Man. He's
exactly.
awesome.
Come on, baby. That
Action
was
Jackson.
come on. That was a great joke.
Well, sometimes you just don't know. You just kind of want to ask. I mean, it might be your uncle who's like helping you letter or something like that.
You never know. Hey, family trees can go in all sorts of different directions.
That's right.
Especially with that Mandalorian money. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I'm hopeful. I'm waiting for one of those checks to go to the wrong Weathers house. Maybe I can cash some of that Mandalorian money. Yeah.
I do have a question for you, Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
And sorry for the slight delay. When you're choosing your fonts, do you have like a fontology of fonts that you use, or do you go to like a font university? How do you choose your fonts?
Well, I have a bunch over the years that I've collected just based on different projects you work on just require different looks. And you go seeking those out. I look for fonts that fit the style of the book. And if that means I need to go out and procure something, then I'll go do it. There are two great resources for comic book fonts for letterers of any class. What am I trying to say? Whatever level you're at, there are fonts for everybody. Blambot.com, you can get free ones. Free is always good. That's how I learned. That's what I lettered with Flying Fortress, were free fonts. And they have a lot of paid ones too, but they're fairly inexpensive compared to like a site called Comic Craft, which is put by Richard Starking and his Comic Craft lettering crew. And some of those fonts upwards of $400. You just kind of buy what's necessary for the project, or somebody says, I want to use this font. I'm like, I will, if it's good enough, if it's like, okay, this will fit with your artwork, I'll say like, yeah, this sounds good, or I'll make another suggestion. But I've got plenty to work from now because I've just been doing it so long, and I'm usually able to find what works based off of what I already have. But if not, I'm not opposed to just going out and grabbing a new one, because I know for me it's just a business expense. It's like, this is what I do. It's like buying pins for somebody. For me, sometimes it's buying fonts. So.
And that's awesome because with our production company, we're always doing like movie posters, and there's like always that movie font that people want. And I tried to procure something that was similar to John Wick, and I was like, I ain't paying John Wick money for this.
Yeah. Fonts might be surprising to some people how expensive they can get. They can get really pricey. So that's why someday I'll make my own. Maybe I'm the one who can sell the fonts to the people.
See, you should have bought them like back in like the 90s and stuff like that, because back in the 90s, I noticed that they were cheaper comparative to what they are today, and it's like you could have been using them forever,
I could have been.
He's like, back when. That is really, really awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that fontology was that expensive, and I just.
It gets up there.
Yeah, my first job.
But it's pretty awesome.
My first job, we were doing products for like CVS, Walmart, Walgreens, all these big companies, and I told them, I was like, listen, we can't just keep using like New Times and Helvetica for everything. It's like, if you want a good, range in your product line that you're trying to offer these people, we got to go get some fonts. And like, okay, we'll just download them. I'm like, no, you got to buy them.
How it works.
If this is a product that's in Walmart, they will find you. Okay. Yeah. So and when I started showing them some of the prices and stuff, they're like, yeah, just use Helvetica. It's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, the free stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. My last question before I pop out, what are you listening to when you work, or do you listen to stuff when you work? Because I know Skits Comic listens to a variety of music, which is why he's like, welcome to the fun house. So is there any particular style that you listen to?
Besides the listening to the kids run around upstairs, there's a lot of that. But honestly, I'm watching. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm lettering, it's I'm watching the live streams. I'm watching everybody do. I'm watching Sweetcast or Ethan or whoever. I'm just catching up on that stuff. But if I have to buckle down and get work done, I have to listen to music that is lyricless. It's mostly soundtracks to movies,
Okay.
but it can't be movies that I know. It has to be movies that I either don't know or have only seen once. Because I can't listen to Star Wars. Because if I'm
So
listening to
no
Star Wars
Even
music,
Star?
all I see is the scenes in Star Wars because all the musical cues are so iconic for knowing what happens. But I really like to listen to sort of chill synth wavy stuff because that's sort of the idea behind at least this opening scene for Battle Brick Road is a lot of like dusty Mad Max kind of stuff. So it's a lot of chill like
Mhm.
synthwave. The Book of Eli soundtrack is big for me. But when I'm in outside of layout
Yes.
mode and I'm in penciling mode, it's whatever. It's usually a lot of metal. I like to listen to metal. Black Label Society, Metallica,
Well,
stuff
you've
like
got
that.
the hair for it, so that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
For how
So
long though? Will you reach that stretch goal where you cut it off and you get the wonderful mullet? Or do you think you're going to reach that?
I don't know if I could let it go at this point. This is 3 years of growth. I've only had 2 trims. I don't know if I could let it go into the Tiger King mullet territory or not.
Well, you'd still have the back. It's
That's
just
true. Yeah.
so. I mean, it would
As
still
long
be
as I
that length.
as long as I wear the beanie or another hat, I'm still nobody will be none the wiser. Yeah.
Well, just
And
so
you can
you
pick up the guitar behind you and no one would know. No
They
one
would
would
never know. That's right.
Well, just so you know, the mullet is coming back. My aunt, she's a stylist, and she says she's been getting mullets left and right.
Okay, I
So
thought you were saying she was getting a mullet.
no, she's
Okay.
well past that. That was early '80s, you know.
Or yeah. Yeah, she's not working for a bounty hunter, so she doesn't need a mullet.
Yeah.
Oh no, but Annie does got a gun, so
Well, Black Star, we really appreciate you stopping by. Thanks a lot for coming in and asking a few questions.
yeah, come get some.
That's
Thanks,
right.
Eric.
Thanks. Come get some. Thanks, Black Star. Appreciate it.
Come get some.
Come get some.
Oh, she's awesome. Yeah, we
Yeah.
got more. We got more. Come get some. So everyone who's listening out there, just go on over there. She's going to have some more really soon. So those are always fun. You know, obviously once Battle Brick Road comes out, you know, she'll be able to do a review, a good come get some of that. So
Yeah.
I think what you said you're gonna, if I read the campaign right, it's March of 2001.
That's the plan right now. We don't have the
2001.
estimated shipping on the perks yet because it's so early. You know, my schedule can be so crazy. Like I have pages in the can ready to go to draw, and I'm like, I can't draw them right now because I got all these books I got to letter. So there's a lot of hurry up and wait with my pages. But at the same time, if I don't launch the campaign, and this is why I did it, it's because I need that deadline. I need that pressure. Otherwise, it just sort of sits here and not a lot. I mean, I'll get pages done, but it's not to the degree in which if I know that people are relying on me more. And,
Well,
you know,
$20,000 worth of relying right now. So
true. That's true. It's actually 21,000 now. We just cracked
is it?
into 21,000. Yeah. So
What?
when you're in it, when you're running a campaign, you'll find out you're just hitting refresh every 2 or 3 minutes, just waiting. So yeah, we cracked.
Boom! Look at that, 21,000. I'm
Yep.
not gonna pretend like my show had anything to do with
No,
that.
you take all the credit. That's what I say. If I'm on your show, when we bring in sales, it's all on you. You did it. So
Well,
thank
shoot, man, there's $400 or $500 right there. Then
I'll
I
take
could
it.
be.
I'll take it.
All right, man. Hey, I just gotta say, man, this has been really great. You know, I'm I think I might be a little bit like you. I've seen you on enough shows where it's like this isn't really my thing. I'm not really the person to be up in front of a camera by myself talking to people. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, to me, I feel like I'm talking to I'm talking to nothing. You know, I'm talking to a computer screen here. You know,
Yeah.
but it's been really tough for me to kind of fall into this, and I've been lucky to have someone like Black Star, my wife, to kind of help out because she's in the movie industry. She's been in Hollywood for 15 plus years, acting and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
she's really kind of helped grab something inside of me and kind of pull it forward. It's like when I was first doing videos, just doing a voiceover. Voiceovers are the toughest, like over a
Yeah.
drawing or something like that. I was sitting there like, well, here's how you do it, and you get on in there, and she was like, she'd just be in the other room and she'd start yelling at me. She's like, what are you talking about, Tex? I'm like, I ain't from Texas, I'm from the South. But she's just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's killing me. I was just, oh look, she's saying, oh, you're doing fine. Hey, I appreciate it,
Yeah.
but it's all because of her, because I this type of thing. I mean, how is it for you? I mean, you seem like a pretty laid back guy, like myself, and it's just kind of
Yeah, I'd say it depends on the stream, really. If I'm around people I'm comfortable with that I'm used to being, Vaughn and Clint, I mentioned them earlier. Like we're just hanging out, just like we would if we were sitting at a bar or something, or hanging out at a restaurant or whatever. You go on a bigger show, and it's a little. I feel
yeah,
like I'm not all there yet. I think it's
yeah,
just because I haven't. Ethan's putting on a show, and most
yep,
other people are just having a conversation.
yeah,
So it's a different dynamic. With
yeah,
John, it's sort of somewhere in between on Malin's show. That John and I have worked together for a couple of years now, so it's a little bit easier to goof around and have a good time. But
yeah. He seems like a tough nut to crack anyway, because he's definitely got his like focus, and he knows exactly what he wants to
mhm,
do, type of thing. And I never
yeah,
know quite how to read him. He's almost like wallpaper. He's just kind of there, and he's got his scowl, and I'm like, dude, this guy is intense. What's going on? I don't know. It's like
yeah.
we,
Oh,
we
yeah. John's a great guy. Like like I said, we worked together for a couple of years, so there's times we spend sort of just hanging out while like I'm lettering graveyard shift. We'll just hang out in a chat. We'll work on it together.
yeah,
So there's a different rapport that we have, that it's easier to just sort of hang out and just goof around.
yeah,
Uh, but he's a good guy. Don't
yeah.
don't let his mean
No,
eyebrow
no,
facade
no.
scare you.
No,
He's-
he's cool, man. We went on there once. He had us on, and I got to tell you, it was the best day we've had for our mailing list. I mean, it was like I was checking it like every hour after the show, and it just kept going up. I was like, wow. I was like, this
yeah,
is what being on a big show will do for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I was just like, man, we need more of this.
I mean, really, with these projects, it's all about exposure. I learned that the first time um, with Flying Fortress. We did the initial launch, and we did pretty good. I launched on Doug TenNaples' show. I got to 4,000 an hour, and I thought, well, that's amazing. And then by the end of the first day, it was just under $7,000, and then it just drops off because day one is always big. It's always big,
Yeah.
and it just sort of had a steady growth. And you start feeling this fear, like, oh no, they haven't, something's wrong. They're not interested in the book. And all of these, you start second guessing every decision you've ever made. Thankfully, I'm avoiding that now, but it wants to creep up on you, like, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're leaving money on the table somehow. You just don't know how. So you start throwing everything you can at it. But then it was 20 days in. I think I had about 10 days left, and Ethan sort of just brought a bunch of us new guys on, me and Von Klaus and Kyle Jameson from Shinobi Sasquatch, and there's a handful of other guys that are names, it was a while ago, but it's escaping me now. But he had us on, and it sort of, skyrocketed the campaign again, and it just got it more in front of more and more people's eyes, and really that's all it is just getting people to see it. Because I knew that story was good, and people would want to buy it just based off of the pitch alone. B-17 crew goes on a bombing mission. They get shot down. They crash land in the Middle Ages. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Battlebrick Road. It's like Wizard of Oz meets G.I. Joe. That's cool. Like, how can we pitch these books to make them sound cool, that make people want to buy them? Well, we got that down. Now we just need to find the audience to tell that to, so we can sell the book. So that's what we're doing, and that's what larger channels can bring. Whether or not you're good on those channels, it's a different beast. I mean, that's how I feel. It's like kind of
Oh, I know,
quiet,
man.
So it's weird to
Yeah.
get out and talk.
Yeah, I've been on a few shows where it's like six heads talking, and I'm just like, man, I can't handle this.
It's
It's
yeah,
like,
getting in there and getting your word in. It takes
Yeah.
me a while to think about the process, whatever the idea or whatever the topic of the show is, or at that time, it takes me a while to like think about how I feel about it. And by
Yeah.
the time I'm ready to say something about it, they've moved on to something else.
Well, see that I'm the exact same way. It's like I hear people talking about stuff and I'm like, well, how do I feel about that? I don't
Yeah.
really, I don't really have those knee-jerk reactions to too many different things, especially because I just, also us, we don't really pay attention to what's really going on in the community too much because we're just about team skits and trying to do it the best we
Yeah.
can and
That's
to
a good
get
way to do it too.
yeah, it's like we just got to get out there and do skits. That's all we got to do. It's like you right now, you got to get out there and you got to do Battle Brick Road, and it's like that's exactly where we're at. That's where our heads are. And, besides I got a regular job, I'm also doing this. And it's like I gotta stay in the fight. I gotta keep doing skits, and then you get on one of these big shows and they talk about stuff I ain't even never heard of, and I'm just like, all right, whatever, buddy.
Yeah. That's the Kelsey Shannon method is, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm too busy.
Well, see, that's just it. I was on Wanger's show once, and he was like, hey, what about this? And I'm just like, what the heck is this? He was like, Skits, what do you think of this? I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's so much going on. It's hard to keep track. I try to tell video game news on my morning show, and it's still like I don't even really know. Like I don't. The video game industry has its video, its YouTube stars that call out all the bad stuff. Like the SJW and all of that stuff that Ethan and all of them called out in the comic book industry.
Yeah.
And I can't. It's just not. I just want to talk about fun stuff and.
Yeah.
It's less entertaining, I guess, but it's what I like to do and just hang out with my friends online. So,
well, that's why we have, I think, like 7 people here watching right now, and Ethan has 2,000.
There you go. There you go.
God bless him, man.
Hey, we're small, but we're mighty. That's what's important. Right. Yeah.
Well, we're going to leave it at that. I really appreciate you stopping by. Everyone out there, get on over there to Indiegogo, get on Battle Brick Road. Eric, just give them one last pitch to run out the show with.
Absolutely, yeah. Battle Brick Road is a 52-page graphic novel, all of her life. Dorothy Gale has searched for her missing father in a world of destitution and dust. Now an unexpected message will send her on an unbelievable journey through a mysterious and colorful land. Battle Brick Road is the bones of the Wizard of Oz. Everything has been stripped away, and we built this amazing story out of it. Zeb Hatfield, a good friend of mine, took this germ of an idea that I had about what if we made Wizard of Oz but with guns, and he weaved this amazing story, set it in like this 1930s style, but it's in the future Dust Bowl, where the world is torn apart by just dust storms and ravaged, much like Mad Max. And one man saves the day and builds this Oz utopia, but things don't last so long in a utopia, and it very, very soon became a dystopia, torn apart by war. And our girl, Dorothy Gale, we call her Thea Gale, she is on a mission to find her dad, and she ends up in Oz from a message he sent her, and she has to find this yellow brick road and follow it. And along the way, she picks up some friends to help her in her quest. We are really excited to get this book started. This one here on the campaign is the first of 4. We have a 4-book series that we're going to be telling that tells our version of the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Nice. Now, there's 368 people out there that have said that this book is fantastic. That means you should go out there and check it out too, because if they say it's good, how can they be wrong, people?
They'll be wrong.
I mean, go out there and check it out. Well, again, I'd like to thank you for being on here. We're going to play the Skits video out here, and then that'll be that. So thank you, Eric, and we'll be seeing you again very, very soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on.